So starting off in standing, come up to standing when you're ready. Well, not when you're ready, now. So we're just going to start off with some standing hip, miss my head on there. Yep. Starting off with some standing hip rotations. So standing on the left leg, we'll start with the right leg. Just pick it up just so it's hovering off the ground to start with. Check in with your balance. So just a brief pause. So she says. And then we're going to take it across the body. So it's going to cross the other leg. It's going to come up towards the chest there. It's going to turn out. And it's going to come all the way out and around. And as it kind of comes past that out bit, we turn it in. And then it continues all the way back, as far back as you can go, but my leg's still bent. And then it comes forward again. So we go again. So across the body, turning out, coming round, turning in and going back. And it's not like there's any kind of major, you've got to get it exactly like this or whatever. We're just trying to take your hip joint through as much of a full range of movement as possible. So a bit of external rotation, a bit of abduction, a bit of internal, a bit of extension. So we're coming across, turning out, taking it out, turning it in, coming around, and then we're going to switch sides. Have a wiggle of your foot and ankle, just if it's a little bit nippy from balancing. Same on the other side. Picking up your left leg and just pausing for a minute, just checking in with your balance. Try relaxing the arms, the jaw, head, neck, shoulders, etc. So as chilled out of balance as you can manage today. And the same thing, it's going to come across, it's going to come up, it's going to turn out slightly. As it comes out, it's going to turn in and it's going to come around. So across, out, woo, in and around, across, out, in and around. Cheating, I'm touching the wall. One last time. Up, out, in and around. And then again, shake out the feet and ankles or whatever if you need to. All right, so coming down to the mat, just coming into a tall kneeling position. I'm going to start off with some neck circles. So while we're here, going to create some tension by clenching the fist and pressing the fist down either side of your thighs. And the idea is that it keeps the shoulders anchored down, so when you use or when we rotate the neck, your shoulders don't get involved. That's the idea. So press down, create fist, bit of tension in the glutes. I'm going to drop the chin to the chest. You're going to take the chin across to the right collarbone, or the end of the right collarbone. Tip the head back like you're pouring something out of your right ear behind you. And then nose to ceiling, circling all the way around until you're tipping something out of your left ear over your shoulder. And then chin to collarbone and around. And we're just going to continue, same direction. The biggest circle you can manage. Hopefully not too many creaks and cracks and crunches. But it is what it is. You keep creating the tension with the fists. Trying to keep the rest of the body still. It's amazing how the shoulders and the chest will get involved. So nice big circles with the neck. And once you get back to the chest on this next one, we'll reverse. So same again, chin to chest, over to the collarbone, tipping something out over your shoulder from your ear. And then a biggest circle you can all the way back to the other side. Now keep circling around, keep pushing the fist down the outsides of your thighs. Sometimes good to do this holding to like tennis balls or massage balls because it gives you something to focus on with the hands. But fists will do tonight. Let's just go one last time, circling around. Back to center and release, and just let go of all that tension. You can have a little bit of a wiggle, whatever you need to do. So from there, Jess, who's missing? That's who's missing. I knew there was somebody. Right, so from there, shoulder blade movement. Okay, so same thing fist-wise, but this time the hands are going to come out. So they're at shoulder level, and it's like you're resting them on a shelf. So they're not going to come up, down, in, out. They're just staying put. They're going to look like they're moving because your shoulder blades are going to be moving and they're attached. All right, so I'm going to create shoulder blade circles backwards first. So we're going to go shrug to the ears, pull the shoulder blades back together, drop them down, and then pull them wide. So it's just a big circle. If I drop my arms to show you, I'm doing this action with my shoulder blades. But because the arms are out here, it makes it a little bit more tricky to find the movement and isolate it at your shoulder blades. So mobilizing the shoulder blades, circling backwards as best we can. A lot of work involved in the muscles around the shoulders, but keep clenching your fists. And still got some tension in the glutes. And the idea behind creating that little bit of tension as you do these mobilizations is to try and isolate, like I say, oh, have we got somebody? Let me just, no. It's all right, I'm just waiting to see if Jess wants to sign him. Keep going. Let's do one last time, big circle you can, and then you kind of know what's coming. And if you're me or like me, going forward is the tricky one. So circling, whatever circling is, circling forward. It's the new word for circling forward, circling. When you've got that tension, you might find it surprisingly hard work on some of the muscles around your shoulders, depending on where you are tight. Keep it going. Biggest circles you can. Let's go one last one, huge circle, and then release. And again, just shake out that tension. Give it a wiggle. I just want to get rid of it all before we move on to the next one. Okay, so that those hip circles we were doing at the start, we're going to come back to that, but we're going to come back to it in all fours. So you're going to come on to hands and knees. Usual position, hands under shoulders, knees under hips. And then from there, just bring your left knee slightly closer to the midline. So center your left knee, because that way when you pick up your right leg, you've got something to balance on, all right? So from there, just the same thing again, just big circles to start with. So out and around, whichever direction, because we're gonna do both. Nothing specific here, just biggest circle you can, relatively still through the spine and the pelvis, a little bit of movement's fine. And just nice big circle, out and around. And then reverse, take it over the other way, or out the other way, depending on which way you came. Last one, and then switch it sides. So bring the right leg closer to the middle, give you something to balance on, and then circling the left leg. So just getting a bit of mobility. The cat sat straight in front of the screen. I don't think you can see her actually. She's watching you guys. She's looking at the screen, watching all you lot moving. Sparrow, you're not helping. And now she's batting Mirabella. Oh, now she's batting David. You're going to finish up switching that screen off, Sparrow. If I disappear, it's because the cat's pushed the iPad over. Let's go one last time and then switch his side. So left leg closer to the midline. All right, so this time you can see me. You can't see the cat, can you? No, she's not quite in front of the camera. All right, so leg closer to the midline, left leg. Right leg is going to come out to the side. So you want to find just what range of movement you've got in your hip. So like a dog cocking its leg, I'm going to bring the leg up to the side, and you'll find there's like a natural sticky point. That's the most you've got. Just see if you can bring it out a little bit further before your pelvis gets involved. In other words, before you start twisting the spine. So just what have you got in the leg first, and then lower it back down. Same again, leg out to the side. I'm just going sideways on off front one so you can see what I'm doing. The leg out to the side without twisting the pelvis. That comes next, and then lower it back down. Leg up, leg down. And then just have a check of your standing leg, so your left leg, that when you bring the leg up, it's not windscreen out to the left or windscreen wipering out to the left. Try and keep it vertical. Couple more. Just go one more. Well, I just switched these on because I forgot to switch the lights on. And then we're going to add in that next bit of twisting the pelvis. So it's a little bit difficult for me to explain, but when you lift this leg out to the side, you want to do the same action with your standing leg. So I'm pushing my standing leg, in this case to the left, which results in me lifting the leg higher. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I'm not just twisting from my spine, I'm actually pushing the standing leg into the ground to lift my leg up higher. Good. And lower all the way back down. So we go just the leg in the hip socket, then we add in the other leg and lift the pelvis as well. So a lot more work in the glute and the hip and lower back down. So just the leg, then the pelvis, all the way back down. Just the leg, then the pelvis, all the way back down. One more time. Just the leg, then the pelvis, all the way back down. And then from there, itching the nose is optional. All right, so we come back to left leg slightly closer to the midline. This time I'm going to take your right leg out along the mat behind you. So one nice long leg, toes pointed, calf tight, quads lifted. So lots of tension in that leg. You're going to lift it up to hip height or thereabouts as best you can. And then it's going to come out and around. So as it comes around to the side, hopefully in line with your hip, the knee is going to turn upwards slightly or forwards. You're going to tap the foot down in line with the hip if you can. And then we're going to pick it back up there and take it back round. And as it goes back round, knee points back to the floor, you lower the foot down and we go again. So lift, circle the leg out to the side and it will come as far as it comes. You know, we can get it a little bit further maybe before we put it down. And then lift that foot up and take it all the way back. Hard work, a lot of work in the hips with this one. Up, bring it around so there's no momentum. We're doing this all under your own steam. Really push the floor away with the hands will help you lift the leg back up. Not a lot, but it will help. One more time, up, and bring it around, lower it down, up, take it back, and lower it down. And then just have a seat before we do the other side. Give your wrists a bit of a wiggle if you need to, a bit of a shake. Some of that tension go. And then we do the other side. So I'm going to turn forward again so you can see what I'm doing with my, hopefully see a little bit better what I'm doing with my legs. So we've got our fire hydrant first. So I'm going to bring my right leg closer to center and then lifting the left leg just out to the side as high as it will go, but without twisting my pelvis, which is usually not very high, and then lower it back down. And there will be a tendency to want to cheat by either twisting the ankle out. So focus on the knee coming right out to the side. So you're not bending or straightening the knee, saying exactly the same, which would be a 90-degree angle. Yeah. Good. Couple more. And then this time we'll add in the hip twist as well. So leg first, then push outwards with your right leg to lift up higher, all the way back down. So leg first, then the hip, all the way back down. Leg, hip, all the way back down. Leg, hip, all the way back down. You get the idea. Keep going. Really push the standing knee into the floor to create that open twist. The pelvis. Last couple. Last one. And release all the way back down. And then same again with the extension. Using my headphones, bear with me one sec. Falling off. I'm going to stay facing this way. You're going to take out your left leg behind, lift it up to hip height, and then circle it around as far around as it will go without you having to fling it. Place it down. And then from there, really push the floor away with your hands and the opposite knee. The more you can push, the more you're going to be able to lift that leg back up again. It's a lot of work to lift it back up. bloody hard work. So we lift at the back, we bring it all the way around, the knee points forward. We lift it back up, we take it all the way back round and the knee points down, lower it down, lift, round, lift, back, lower, one last time, up and around. Last time, up and back and lower it down, bend it back in. Nicely done, chaps. All right, so I'm a little bit warmer through the hips. We can come into 1990s. So we're going to work through the last few weeks. We've been working on different types of mobility over the last few. I'm going to do my dodgy side first. It's usually a good idea. Do your dodgy side first. So for the last few weeks, we've been working on different types of mobility, passive stretching, all sorts of stuff. Tonight, with it being the last one, we're working on more on end range. So you've got the point at which you can't get any further with a joint, and then we're going to make it go further. So that's what tonight's all about. It's hard work. So as best you can, 90-90, you see, you might need to kickstand with the hand if you feel like you're falling over a little bit. We're just going to pause here and just see if you can sit your back hip down into the mat. So it will want to be, your pelvis will want to twist forward because it's easier. Sit your sit bone down, like you're trying to get your butt on the floor, or both sit bones equal on the floor. Wiggle if you need to, but we're just kind of settling in. And then we're going to take that into a push-up, if you like, almost. So you want to try and line your chest up with your front thigh, and then bring your hands either inside your leg, one on the outside of the knee, one on the outside of the foot, or if you're a little bit more mobile than me on one side, you can bring your hands slightly further forward. So you're leading with the chest, and you want to press your entire leg down into the floor. So there was a scale under my leg, I'm pressing down, trying to put weight through my leg. So I'm going to do push up here. Essentially, I'm going to drop my chest over my thigh, still pressing down with the front leg. I'm going to lift myself back up. So if I was doing it without hands, which is difficult for me on this side, I come down and then I'm using the pressure of pushing down with this leg to lift me back up. So I'm not using my spine or my back, if that makes sense, yeah? So I'm tenting the fingers just to give me a bit of support, bringing the chest over, and then I'm taking my hands away on this one, just to show you, pressing down with the leg to come back up. Hope that kind of makes sense. It's a lot of work through the hip, yeah? So use your hands if you need to. But if you can, use that front leg to bring you back up. That's it. There are options. David's choosing arms out. That makes it a little bit harder. You can go hands behind head. That makes it a little bit harder. And then finally, there's hands up as well. So you can go where you like with your hands, and you can use them as much as you need to. And we're just going to do one more there. And then release. And then we're going to switch sides. So I'm going to give you a break in between each type of exercise that we're going to do here, just so you don't get too much load on one hip at a time. So same thing, we swap sides. If you like me now on your more awesome side, so I can sit up a little bit better on here. Again, just trying to sit down into that back hip. You can work, you can kind of play with the foot and knee position, just try and find a spot where you can be as upright as possible. And then same thing, we're going to do our push-ups here. So that front leg, all the way from the knee to the ankle, pressing down into the floor, fingers or hands either side, one outside the knee, one outside the foot. Same thing, leading with the chest, coming over, and then using that leg pressing down into the floor to lift you back up. So chest comes over, and then use the leg to lift you back up. And you use your arms as much as you want to or need to. So there's a little bit of a stretch where it's a lot about mobilizing into the hip. As per, press down with the front leg. Sometimes difficult to wrap your head around, kind of pushing through the floor, but that's essentially what you're doing, trying to push your leg through the floor. And we're just going to go one more. Use the leg to push you back up, and then switching sides. And if you need to kind of come into the middle and just slump or just roll the hips from side to side, just to kind of loosen off the tension before we go back to the other side. That's absolutely fine. Okay, so this time, working on that rear leg. So if you sink your back hip down to the floor and you're as upright as possible, I can pretty much guarantee that you will not be able to pick up your foot off the floor. That entire back leg will be welded to the floor, right? So you've got to kind of find how far do you need to lean in order to just be able to get your back foot off the floor. So you probably can't see that. So I'm going to lean further away so I can make it bigger. So I'm picking my back foot up off the floor by pressing my knee down and turning my thigh bone in. I can't feel anything there, right? I'm not really working. So I want to find a spot where I'm as upright as I can, but I can just clear the floor with my foot. So all the work now is in this hip, and I'm trying to internally rotate or turn my thigh bone in order to pick up my back foot. If you're too upright, A, you won't be able to get it off the floor, but B, you'll probably feel it in your, your muscles on your side of your lower back. So lean away as much as you need to be able to get the work in the hip. I'm going to do one more there, and you're going to pause, and then we're going to do the, well, I'll say the same thing. We're going to lift the entire leg up, and again, it doesn't want to come up high. So you choose your adventure with how far away you lean, because if I lean further away, I can get the leg higher. So I just want to lift it off the floor and hover it, and then slowly lower it back down. So what I'm not doing is yanking it off the floor. I'm being very controlled, just hovering it off the floor, and then releasing it back down. So you'd be able to see very little movement. It is lifting, but because I'm as upright as I can be, it's just clearing the floor. So this is what I mean about end range, yeah? So if you're at the very end of a mobilization or a stretch in this case, you're gonna find it very difficult to lift further into it. And that's what we're after. So it's strengthening at end range. Last couple. And on this next one, you're gonna take it up and hold. And then without bringing the knee forward or back, you're going to straighten the leg out and bend it back in. Straighten and bend. Now, a lot more work for the hip. Straighten and bend. You get the idea, keep going. Your foot will probably just be millimeters off the mat. If you're in the right spot, go one more and bend it in and then lower it down. And then just to finish off, I'm going to keep the foot down and pick the knee up this time. So I can make that look really big by leaning away. But again, I'm going to try and find a spot where I can actually feel it some more and be more upright. And now you can see it just doesn't come up as far. And I feel that kind of end sticky point. There's a point at which it goes, that's it, that's enough, that's all you've got. And once you get to that point, you're going to try and wring it out. If you've got any more, and then lower it down. Lift, wring it out, wring it out, wring it out, lower it down. Lift, wring it out, wring it out, wring it out, and lower it back down. And what I've not banged on about with this one, which I could do, is you still want to be thinking about this front leg. I'm trying to keep pressing down with my front knee. You'll feel that it kind of wants to pop up to give you some help. You'll see mine. Yeah, I'm trying to press down with the front knee. And one last time. And release. And then unfortunately, we've got another side to do, but we should be on our slightly more awesome side. So all good with the world. Again, if you need to wiggle in the middle, feel free to wiggle in the middle. And then we get set up on the other side. So again, working with the back leg, lifting the back foot. I can be a bit more upright on this side. In fact, I can be pretty much all upright. And it just wants to clear the floor. You want to be in a position where you could just pick it up. Yeah, not here where you can kind of fling it about. None of you fling, none of you fling. So nice and steady. You might not be able to even see my movement, but I promise you I am lifting my back foot, I promise. Again, try and keep some weight through your front knee. So try and keep pressing down. It's a sneaky way of working the opposite hip as well. Might not feel very much, but it's a strong signal to your body, brain, nervous system. Internal rotation of the hip, really, really important. It's the thing that goes most. Those of you that know John Olson, he checks for hip internal rotation pretty much every time you go as you get past a certain age, because he knows that once that's gone, your joint's not in a good place. So we need to keep it, hence why we do a lot of this. Okay, and then entire leg. So again, you might need to lean more away to get the leg up, or you might be able to come a little bit more upright just to pick that leg up off the floor and lower it back down. So same thing, I'm not flinging, I'm trying to keep it as controlled as I can, hover, 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 and then kissing the floor on the way back down. Slowly, slowly up, kissing the floor on the way back down. Very gentle kiss. Or landing like you're landing on a robin's egg and you try not to squish it. Keep going. Last one, pick it up and hold. And then we're going to straighten and bend the back leg. So the thigh stays still. You can hang on to it if you wish. And bend and straighten. Staying as upright as you can. Which might not be very upright, which is absolutely fine. I'm conscious of how much I've started to lean on this side. Last two. Last one. And lower it down. Just check that you're back in 90-90. And then same thing here, foot stays down. And you want to turn that top knee up to the ceiling, towards the ceiling. Because if you're upright enough, you won't be able to get there. If I lean away, I've got all this waggle room. But I want to be as upright as I can. So I'll find that really deep movement in the hip joint. And then I notice, so it reminds me to tell you guys that my front knee is popping up to assist. So see if you can push your front knee down towards the floor as you pick your back knee up. And all of a sudden it becomes a little bit more tricky. And one more. And release, good. All right, come to center with the legs, a little bit wide, a little bit bent, and just let them flop from side to side. Loosening off the tension around the hips before we move on. We're moving into one of my favorite positions, just because it does actually remind me of a bear, the bear sit. So the bear sit is like so. Now, I'm on my heels. So I'm not in a totally wide straddle position. You just want to be comfortably wide to start with, So we're going to take hold of our ankles. Your arms are coming inside your legs, and then you're wrapping your hands around your ankles from there. So I'm hoping at this moment you're probably relatively comfortable. It shouldn't be massively uncomfortable in any way. But then we're going to lift the chest up. So you're trying to get nice and tall through the spine. And they're going to use your elbows to press your knees out like a book opening. Yeah. So using my elbows to take this into a passive stretch. What's wrong with every time you start using both hands, you need to scratch your nose. So passive stretch, I'm pressing out. If you were closer to me, you'd see I'm quivering, pressing out quite hard, keeping my spine as lifted as I can. And then from there, don't do it yet. We're going to let go of your ankles and bring your arms away from your legs, but create fists. I'll show you what I mean. And then I'm going to use the muscles at the back to keep pulling my legs in that direction. So I'm going to let go, I'm going to create fists. So I've got the tension, I'm going to try and sit upright, and I'm actively pulling my knees. Again, I'm trying to open like a book, going that way. But now it's more active position. So keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling. How far can you go? Keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling. Quivering away here. And then without changing your leg position, take back hold of your ankles, Bring your elbows back on and push out even more. See if you can push out a little bit further and see if anything's given. And then same thing, don't let that position go. Let go with the hands. Stay upright, create your fists. See if you can push out even more, even more, even more, even more. And then release all that tension, let it go. You can let your legs flop wherever's comfy, really. Give them a little bit of a twiddle. Oh. Okay, so coming into the shoulder work, Charlotte did this yesterday with me. It's decidedly tricky. So let's start. So with your bear position now, if you want to have your feet flat on the floor, you can do that. The whole idea is to be roughly in a position where you can sit nice and tall. Yeah. So nice and not too wide, but wide enough that you can get your pelvis to kind of lift up onto your sit bones. Right. Here we go. So your hands are going to be like just one on top of the other. That makes sense. One on top of the other behind your head. So not interlaced. You're not doing this. Just one on top of the other. And lightly, very lightly. Your elbows are comfortable to start with. So from there, pull the elbows back like you're trying to squeeze your shoulder blades together, but you're not putting any extra pressure on the head. From there, you're going to lift your hands away from your head, just straight backwards. So the hands come away from your head. So all of that should be quite a lot of work already in the shoulders. You keep pulling the elbows back. We're going to go to a Y shape. So all you've got to do is straighten your elbows, but keep pushing the arms back. So I'm desperately trying to reach the wall behind me with the backs of my hands. I'm going to turn thumbs down. So internally rotating at the shoulder blades, but I'm still pressing backwards. The hands are going to come down and back and back and back and back and back. So I'm reaching back, 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 back. And they're going to come, bend the elbows again. And then you're going to try and take your hands as high up your back as you can without touching your back. So no crawling the hands up your back. They're going as high as you can. Then you can rest them and let the elbows flop forward. So I'll stay here so you can kind of see what I'm doing from the side. So going back, the hands lift away first, not wrists. Yeah, the whole hand lifts away. And then I'm reaching back. So I'm stretching out the arms again, elbows back, arms back. And I start to come back up. And as I come back up, my hands are going to go thumbs up, back up to your Y position, still pressing backwards, and then back down, bending the elbows, hands away from the head, and then finally resting them on the head. The main focus is trying to get backwards with all of this. Turn back around again. So we're back to our relatively comfortable position. If you did have your hands stacked one way, try and stack them the other. Pull the hands away from the head, pulling the elbows back, pulling the shoulder blades together. No effort in the neck. Straighten the arms, still pulling the arms back. Start to turn the palms over, thumbs down, as you start to lower the arms, still reaching back, reaching back, reaching back, reaching back, reaching back, like a skier. Then bend the elbows. Try and take the hands as high up your back as you can without touching. Then press them into your spine. I wouldn't say relax, because it's even harder to get them off again, but you do want to be pressing into your back. Same thing, I'm going to lift the hands away first. Tough part. Reach the arms back as you straighten the elbows, and then start to turn the arms over, so thumbs turning up and then out as the arms come back up to your Y position. And then you finally bend the elbows, keeping the hands away from the head as far as possible, and then release. And you can relax the arms for a moment. Give your legs a wiggle if you need to. But we're just going to break that down. I'm obviously going to have an argument with somebody tonight. I've got very, very itchy nose. Probably one of you lot by the time you go through this shoulder thing. All right, so back to it. So I'm going to use, there's like 4 or 5 movements there. We're going to do some repetitions in each. You'll be delighted to hear how we're doing for time. We're good. So hands behind the head again. Lifting up tall. First things first, pull the shoulder blades back, elbows back. And then from there, take the hands away from the head. And we're going to straighten the elbows, pressing the hands back to the wall behind you. And then bend back in. Do not touch your head. Straighten out, bend back in. When you straighten the elbows, push back behind you. Bend back in. Do not touch your head. If you've got big hair, you can touch your hair, but you can't touch your head. Couple more. On this next one, take it out to your YMCA position and hold. Make sure you are pushing back. Turn your thumbs down and as far back as you can, and then turn your thumbs up and as far back as you can. So internally rotating and then externally rotating. Keeping in your Y position. Your hand, I was just checking mine out in the camera because your arms will want to lower. Yeah, because it's hard work to be in this Y position. They'll want to start creeping down. And all the time I'm pressing back. So they'll creep down and they'll creep forward. Pressing back, pressing back, pressing back. Breathe. If you're not already, just realize mine had cut off. And then we're going to turn on this next one, thumbs down. We're going to lower the arms back and down. And you kind of get what's coming here. Now bend the elbows as high up your back as you can, but do not touch your back. Straighten the elbows, reaching as high as you can with the arms straight. Bend them back in. Do not touch your back. Reach them away. And make sure that you are, each time, as you bring the arms up your spine, crossing the hands one on top of the other, alternating. So if your right hand's on top, take your left hand on top, and then switching right hand on top. I'm trying to keep them lifted behind me as I straighten them out. They'll want to drop lower. Make them work for it. And we're going to do last one. And then bring the arms forward. And you can just collapse in a heap over your legs, whatever you need to do. Right, so working with our bear, we're going to go from bear position to a straddle position, but we're going to do it with a lift. So we're in that end range sort of position again, using the hip flexors to lift the legs up. So I wouldn't go as wide as you possibly can for your straddle because it doesn't give you a lot of room to maneuver. So maybe come in, I don't know, 3 or 4 inches. Essentially, if you find this really difficult, bring your legs in a little bit, all right, and then bend them. So we're back in our bear position. Toes are pointing up, or at least the feet are flexed. I'm going to stay as upright as you can. I'm going to work the right leg. So I'm going to bring my hands, one on either side of the leg, so that I can use my hands to push down to give me some support and some help, really. So the idea here is to lift this leg up. Now, I'm not lifting by lifting and straightening the knee. I'm lifting my thigh bone up. Yeah, so the way that my foot's coming up is I'm lifting my knee and my thigh. Hard work as it is, right? So we're going to lift it up and then we're going to stretch it out. Then we're going to lower it down. So it's the same concept. The further back you lean, the easier it is. Got all this waggle room, yeah? So you've got to choose your adventure depending on where you're at. The more upright you are, the harder it is to get it to move. Yeah, so choose your adventure. Lift from the thigh, straighten, lower. Lift, bend. I find the bending in the hardest. Lift, straighten, lower. Lift, bend, gently put the heel down. One last time. Lift, straighten, and lower. Lift, bend, and gently put the heel down. I say gently, mine's doing that. You probably can't hear it. All right, same on the other side. In fact, if you need to let that one go and give it a wiggle, feel free. So essentially what we're doing is we're putting our body in almost to the end of its ability to lift, to use the muscles that you've got. So if we were here, like I say, and leaning back, there's not as much tension in the hip. So it's a lot easier to lift, yeah, by being upright. We're asking the muscle to work right at the end of its capability, which is a good thing. I don't feel like it, but it's a good thing. All right, so same again. Working with the left leg, one hand inside, one hand outside. Choose your adventure. You might need to lean a bit more on one side. I know this side's my slightly less awesome side. So I'm going to pick up the leg from my thigh, then straighten it out, kiss the heel to the floor. Lift, bend, lift, straighten, lower. Lift, bend, release. You get the idea. Up, out, down, up, in, down, up, out, down, up, in, down. And I could tell when I get tired, it becomes really clunky. It's like a ratchet. It goes click, 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 all the way in. I'm going to do one more. Up, click, 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 all the way in, and then release. And give your legs a little bit of a wiggle or whatever you need to do. Shake them side to side. Oh. Okay. So we've got one last kind of real end range thing to do here, which I do find it quite difficult, I have to say. So we'll see how we get on. So we're going to come into more of a straddle position. As wide, don't have to be as wide as me. It is where it is. I'm going as wide as I can, and then I'm narrowing it a little bit because I know I need to give me that ability to lift my leg. This time your feet are going to be pointed. So there's no getting away from it. Because we're at that end range, we're using these muscles on the front of the leg. They might cramp. As soon as they cramp, or if they cramp, bend your leg. You'll see me do it. I always get cramp in these positions, which is a good thing. I'm not going to explain why, it takes too long, but anyway. So we're working with the right leg. Same thing, one hand either side. You're going to need to lean a little bit. Most of us are going to need to lean a little bit to take some of the tension off so that we've got room to lift the leg up. Yeah. So if I'm right over here, there's nothing. I just don't have any strength in that range, right? So I'm coming back a little bit, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to hover the leg and lower. Hover and lower. And it's that same concept of being slow and controlled rather than yanking it off the floor. If you're having to yank it off the floor, lean back a little bit more until you've got control over your lift and your lower. Yeah, like I say, any cramp, bend the leg, fine. Quite impressed that mine's not cramping actually. Mind you, warmer in an evening. Yesterday, doing it at 10 o'clock in the morning, not quite as warm. I'm going to lift and lower. Nicely done. Bend that leg in just to give it a little bit of a break before we do the other side. All I've done is bend it in, and I'm just kind of circling my body around. Just doing whatever you need to just to loosen off that tension. All right, and then it goes back out, and unfortunately we've got another side to do. So same thing, one hand inside, one hand outside, and they're there for you to push into the floor. It gives you that little bit of support, that little bit of assistance. Also keeps you a little bit honest because it's keeping you upright. So left leg, pointing the toes away. I'm working out, just I can feel where I need to lean to be able to get that leg just off the floor with the control. So lift and lower. All about the control. And it really helps if you stare intently at your foot and will it off the ground. Just realized I was like staring intently at your foot to raise it off the ground. Oh, I'm gonna try and sit up that little bit more and just see if I can just get it off the floor and sit up a little bit more. See what I can do. Teeny tiny lift. I'm going to do one last time and then release. Bend that leg in, and again, give yourself a wiggle. Move about. Oh, tension through my back today. I'm doing too much as per. Okay, all right, so that's the lift and lower. I'm going to take it into a little bit of a hover. I'm going to create circles. So I'm going to lean back just so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to lift the leg up and circle. They're only going to be very small circles. So now we're spending a little bit more time in under tension, really. Makes it that little bit harder. So if you need to lean back a little bit, that's fine. But again, if you want to challenge yourself, start leaning back and then just work your way upright and just see how far upright you can get. All right, so working on the right leg, hands either side, lean back as much as you need to get that leg off the floor to start with. And then I'm going to work my way upright. And then we're just creating little circles. The control, I'm not whizzing. Yeah, I'm not just whizzing my leg. Might not be a circle, it might be a triangle or a square. And then going to reverse the circle around the other way. Was that David? No hands, no hands, no hands. I'd release it down and then bend it in. I'm sometimes glad for Zoom and having to put you all on mute because I can't hear how unhappy you are. Whereas when we're in person and you're breathing heavily and shouting at me, I can hear it all. All right, unfortunately, we've got one more side to do, but we're nearly there. We're nearly there. And it is the last one and it's nearly Christmas. Okay, so same thing. However much you need to kind of lean away from that leg to start with, to gently hover it off the floor. I'm using my hands, I'm changing position with my hands, trying to get that leg off, and then I'm going to bring myself a little bit more upright. And then again, circling. You don't need to do many. I don't want to go to fatigue with these really, which doesn't take very long to be fair. And then reverse your circles. Last 3, last 2, and last 1, and then bend it in. Again, take your body over that leg. Just a matter of wiggling about. Oh, letting the tension go. Okay, so conscious of the time. Have we got time to play with that? Yeah, we have. Let's just come into the long lunge position. I think we've just got enough time to add this in. I'm just conscious of the fact that we've worked so much on the quads and stuff. So just come to all fours, just an easy way to get into things. So all fours, and then bring your right foot to the outside of your right hand. I'm going to walk the left leg back just until you get, I'm just going to come forward a bit so I'm actually on my mat. So you're in that long lunge position. And from here, just trying to sink your hips down towards the mat. So just have a brief pause here first. Make sure that your toes are tucked under on your left leg. And then from there, without lifting your hips up, this is the hard part, you're going to try and straighten your back leg. So it's going to bend and straighten without you lifting your hips up. So it doesn't look like this. Yeah, my butt's not lifting. I'm just trying to straighten my back leg. Might look like my butt's lifting a little bit, but you'll find that if you keep your butt low, you won't really be able to straighten your back leg probably. But we're just stretching out the hip flexors that we spent so much time working on today. Let's do one more there. You can lower the knee down, or if you wish, you can lift the knee off the floor. I'm going to choose to lift it off just because I like the stretch on the front of my leg after doing all that work. So I'm going to keep it off. Then I'm going to take my right arm up to the ceiling and just into that rotation through the chest, the upper back, looking up at the top hand. I'm still working on straightening my back leg and dropping my hips down. So I really get that stretch in the front of the back leg. And then untwist, plant the hand, drop the back knee, and we come to the other side. So switching legs. So back through all fours, then bring the left foot outside the left hand, get comfy, walk the right leg away, not inch it away, as far as it will go. And then dropping the hips forward and down towards the mat, keeping the chest lifted. Toes are tucked under at the back. Same thing here. It's that you're back to that sort of concept of end range again. You're here in the biggest stretch of your hip at the front here. And then we're asking it really as you try and straighten the knee without lifting the hips up to stretch even more. So as you lift the knee, you should feel this deep, well, just deep increase, I suppose, in stretch. I'm actively lowering my hips as I straighten or attempt to straighten my knee. I'm not letting them creep up. I'm going to keep them low. Easier said than done, really. Last one. Good. And then same thing, you've got choices. You can keep the knee down, or if you wish to pick it up, that's fine. Your hips will lift a little bit. I appreciate that. That's okay. And then we're back over into our rotation. So lifting the left arm to the sky, looking up at the left hand, if that's comfortable on your neck. Seeing if you can rotate that a little bit further. And then untwist, drop that back knee down, gently come out of your stretch and come into sitting on your bottom. Just got time for our piriformis twisting stretch. So you can either keep one leg straight and cross the other one over, but if you can, bend the other one around. So the way I would get into it, I would bend my left leg in first into the other one. So bend my left leg in first. That gives you then the ability to lean away so you can cross this one over and then come upright. That makes sense. So we're here trying to get my toes roughly in line with my knee, trying to get my base of my big toe down into the mat. So mobilizing the front of the foot. It's your right leg that's forward. The left elbow is going to wrap around. I'm going to pull that knee across my chest. Free hand, kick stands behind, touching your bottom. Lift the chest up and rotate round. So you want to feel like you're spiraling upwards as you rotate, not spiraling downwards. Spiral up. So you stay nice and lifted. If you can, see if you can put the sit bone that isn't on the floor or is less on the floor than the other one. See if you can sink down deeper into that hip, even as you're twisting and spiraling up. So I'm trying to sink my hip down, pull my knee in, push the base of my big toe into the ground. Lots going on, lots going on. Breathe and hold, etc., etc. And then you're going to untwist. So you're going to twist in the opposite direction, bring the hands down. My hands are like if I was in all fours, they're about shoulder distance apart and they're in line with each other. Still base of the big toe. And I'm going to bend the elbows towards me and lower my ear towards the mat. And I'm pushing my knee up towards the ceiling, the obvious one. Just pausing here. You can rest the head down if you wish, if your arms are giving you some jip, but otherwise use it as a moment to really build a little bit of strength in the upper body as well. Sink as low as you can go. And then push the floor away and come on home. And then we switch sides. So tuck the other leg in, cross the other one over. However you want to get there, it's absolutely fine. Wiggle into position. In other words, tie yourself in as small a knot as you can. Base of the big toe, pushing down towards the floor. Opposite hand around the leg. Kickstand hand, touching your bottom. Lift the spine, twist around. Sink your sit bone down to the floor. You're trying to get both sit bones as heavy as possible on the mat. Twist it, twist it, twist it. Base of the big toe, sit bone, knee pull into opposite shoulder, spine lifting and spiral into the ceiling. Big stretch for the back of the hips for all the work that we've done on them today. And then slowly untwist, nice, not allowing yourself to twang even. And then same thing, we're going to twist to the other side, bring the hands down like they are in 4-point kneeling. And then start to bend the elbows, lowering the chest and the ear towards the floor. I'm just being very gentle with myself on this side. Got a nippy shoulder at the back and my hips kind of not happy on this left side. It's been working hard today. So nice and steady away. I'm just kind of checking in each time. You lower that little bit further, to see if I can get any closer to the ground, still pushing that top knee away from me really. So it's up to the ceiling, but can you press it out any further? Can you press the base of your big toe into the ground any further? Really working through the foot and ankle as well, and then push the floor away and come back up. You can unravel your legs, lean back and just do some nice, easy, slow windscreen wipers from side to side to finish off. Given all that rotation, I really don't think we need to do pretzel as well. Last couple, it's nice and easy, and release. And you can flop or whatever you need to do. Or like I'm going to do, go and eat quesadillas. And Simon's been ferreting about in the kitchen the entire time I've been doing this. The food smells amazing. Amazing. Let me pause the, where's the record button? Let me switch that off.